Hey guys, welcome to my 2024 JTV workshop, Jewel School Extravaganza. My name is Katy Smith, and today we're going to be making the spiral band ring, which is kind of an advanced little workshop class that we have for you today, and it's really, really fun. I love making this ring because it's kind of a statement ring while also looking rather dainty. It's not super thick or heavy weight. All you need is some wire and some beads. Here's an example of another one that I made. I'm gonna be using 20 gauge German style wire. I'll take it off and show you the back of it. It's so comfortable because all the bands are gathered in the back. So it's just really easy to wear. And then I have little tiny amethyst beads wrapped across. So grab your materials and let's go ahead and get started. I'm gonna be using this little color scheme today on my ring. We might even have time to make a second one. So you're gonna need some 2 to 3 millimeter beads. These are just little gemstone beads. And so I have 6 of those. I have 2 feet of 20 gauge wire. This is round, half hard German style wire, which is my favorite. It's from Vita Lawn, and I love making rings out of it because it's strong. It's not going to, your ring won't collapse once you wear it or anything like that. So that's my favorite. I actually have a whole spool right here if you want to take a look at that, just so you know. And see right there, it says German style wire. It's the best. Okay, and then also I've got my 26 gauge wire. This is going to be wrapping those tiny beads across. You might need a couple of feet of that. I put 1.5 feet on my tutorial, but you may need more or less depending on your style. Another thing I love about this ring is you don't even have to use, you don't have to wrap beads across. So I think the hardest part about it's gonna be wrapping the tiny beads, but if you want, you can leave it plain and just have a cool multi-tier band ring. So it's totally up to you. Lots of ways to make it your own. And let me go over these tools that we're gonna be using. We've got our steel ring mandrel. And it needs to be steel because we're gonna be hammering on it just a little bit. I've got my chasing hammer and my rawhide mallet here. And then these are the pliers we're gonna use. We're gonna have a chain nose plier, a flush cutter, and a nylon jaw plier for straightening out and work hardening our wire. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And we can go ahead and get started. So let's see, I'll put that stuff over here. We're gonna grab our 20 gauge wire. And if you do have a spool like this at home, feel free to just work off the spool because then you won't waste as much wire. But I just went ahead and cut a segment for this tutorial. And I'm gonna grab my nylon jaw plier and hold my wire and just work it through the plier. You grab it and pull, and it's gonna make it stronger. It's gonna get any kinks out. And just keep doing that for a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and do this whole piece. This is probably way too much wire, but better too much than not enough, right? So also you can wrap around the mandrel as many times as you want as well. I'm gonna wrap 7 times so that I have 6 little spaces for my little beads, but keep in mind you're welcome to do however many you want to do. Okay, I've got my ring mandrel. I want my ring to be around a size 9, and can you see the numbers okay on this? We have a couple, okay. So when you're making this ring, you're gonna go up a size a little bit because the big band means it's just gonna take up more real estate. So I would go up 1 size than you want in the end. So I'm gonna hover over the 10 when I wrap. Okay, so all you're gonna do is take it, I kind of hold it like this. You're gonna wrap it 7 times around the 10 or whatever is one size above where you want to end up. Make sure you leave a little bit of a tail before you start wrapping because we're gonna need lots of room to coil those guys. So that's... Okay. There are my wraps. You can give it a little count if you want to make sure you have enough little spaces for your tiny beads, and I have 6. And so let those tails overlap in the back, crisscross, and gather those bands up together. All right, so now we're gonna hold those in place together and remove the mandrel slowly, keeping that circle. And you can see I've got one tail here, one tail here. Okay, we're going to now kind of flip to the other side of our ring and make our little coils. Let me see if I can take my hand away from so you can see how it looks. Just like that, just like a little spring. And we're going to first, I'm gonna coil this one right here and just try to keep everything as still as you can. It can be hard if you don't have a lot of finger flexibility or strength. I mean, it's kind of hard for me too, but you can do it. So just coil this one, start by pushing it through the middle. See that? And then you're just gonna pull it out. Make it pretty tight. And then wrap it around again. You may need to readjust a little bit. Push it through the middle and pull it out like that. And do it a couple more times. Push it through. And bring it around. Okay? And I like about 3 wraps right there. Then you're gonna take your flush cutter and use the flat side, the flush side, and trim that off here on the inner part of the band and tuck in that little cut piece. You can go in a little round motion too, just to make sure that it's nice and smooth, because that will hurt if it scratches you. Okay, my hand's starting to turn red because I really do like to keep a lot of tension and pressure on this ring at this step. Okay. Oh, another note is it's okay if it kind of cinches together because we're gonna fix that. So if it starts to overlap and feel funky, that's okay. But you can see where it's starting to become the band ring. Next, we're gonna coil the other side. Pull it around. And coil. Push it through, pull it around. Okay, and now, like we did in the first side, just trim that off on the inner band. And with your chain nose, make sure that's nice and tucked in. And you can also not worry too much about tucking those in right now because we'll be doing that. I tend to do that through my whole ring process, is check in with those little inner parts. Because sometimes when you do this next step, things kind of stretch out, if you will. So, just a little tip. Okay. I'm taking my nylon jaw plier and just kind of running it over these bands to see where they want to go. Just kind of walking it through, and then they're gonna start to spread out a little bit. And now I'm gonna take the bands and separate them out just a little bit with my hand. Just a little bit. You can use a tool if you like. Okay, and now I'm gonna put it back on the mandrel. I mean, this whole ring is just a little bit of a process to keep it. You don't have to rush it. You can just kind of use your nylon plier where you see that it might need a little bit of squeezing to flatten those out. Put it on your mandrel, reshape it. Take your time, just kind of look at it. Once you get your base good and secure and strong, then you can move on. So you gotta have a good foundation for this ring. I'm actually going to, I know I just spread all those out, but I'm gonna go ahead and grab my nylon jaw plier and, I mean, my rawhide mallet, I said that so confidently, and work hard in this a little bit more. Back on my mandrel. And flip it over and do the same thing. I love this hammer because it's not gonna, it doesn't actually make your ring much bigger. It doesn't flatten the wire, it just gently makes it harder. So it's so nice for this. Okay. Now I'm gonna go back in and open up those bands a little bit more. You might even decide to open them up a little more than you think you will need to. It's good to have a little bit of space when you're wrapping your tiny beads through. So, just keep that in mind. It's looking really cute. All right, now we are gonna start wrapping our little beads. And you might notice the little tails of your inner coils have moved a little bit, so feel free to go ahead and just keep tucking those in and down if you want as you go. I can tell that mine have moved a little bit from that whole process, so, okay. Let me move this aside. Another little tip here is if you feel like it, you can hammer the top of your, like where we're gonna start the anchor of our ring, like where we're gonna do our top wrap. You can hammer that out a little bit with a chasing hammer, which is this, to give it a little bit of a flat edge to wrap and hold onto. It's up to you. Like if you wanna do that, I would just do it kind of like this, somewhere in the middle. Boom. And if your beads are gonna go straight across, do it on the other side. I'm gonna flip it to do the other side. I haven't actually. You can even do it all the way through the front. I'm like actually really loving that. I haven't done that on any of my rings, but I thought it was a helpful little tip, so. And I'm kind of loving that. You know I want to hammer the whole thing now, but I won't do that. All right, so we're ready to add our beads. I've already picked these out, and we have a lot of these sets of beads here at JTV. They're 2 to 3 millimeter beads, and these turquoise ones aren't from the set, but you can get a really pretty array of colors from, I think it's a set of 8, and this tourmaline strand has a lot of really pretty colors of the spectrum. So that's kind of where my inspiration came for the colorway. And once again, here's my little cute mini strand that I'm gonna be using today. So, okay, We've got our 2 to 3 millimeter gemstone beads on hand, and we're ready to wrap them across our band ring. So grab your 26 gauge wire, and we're gonna anchor the beads. We'll anchor the wire to the band. And when I'm making this ring, I like to keep in mind that you're gonna want to anchor it from this direction. And yes, there's TV magic. I just stabbed myself with 26 gauge wire. Just a good reminder that you should have a little first aid kit with you if you're making jewelry, because this stuff can be sharp. You might even want to wear safety glasses. But we're gonna anchor this wire to the top rung coming from this direction, if that makes sense. So just so you remember to do that, you can kind of lay your wire over the top and then come at it from this direction. I hope that makes enough sense, because I like the way that it makes the beads lay in the end. All right, so we're gonna start by coiling this on. And I'm gonna grab my chain nose plier to help me pull that through. Don't ever be afraid to grab a little tool to help you do that stuff. This is very intricate wrapping. And also another little side note, I'm gonna try to keep my beads in the middle of my ring, but you can also kind of go at an angle if you wish. But I'm just gonna go straight across, kind of like this one. Okay. I also sometimes find that the beads will go where they want, so just be ready for that too. I'm gonna go ahead and trim this little tail off with my flesh cutter on the inside of that rung. Go ahead and tuck it in. I find that if I have too many tails going on, it can be a little bit confusing in this ring, so I'm gonna go and do that. Okay, next step is to grab your little tiny beads and string them all onto this piece of wire. Cut those off. See if I can do this in one fell swoop. Grab them off that other wire and string. I've got ruby, tourmaline, 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 amethyst, and black tourmaline. So cute. So string those on and kind of lay them in their little row. Like that. And now we're gonna anchor the other side here. And your wire's still going above all the bands, so make sure you're coming at it from that direction again. And just as a little tip, you don't wanna cinch this part too close. Like, you don't wanna do it like that, because it's really difficult to come back from and like get in between those little rows. So if anything, I would advise to keep it bigger than you think you want it to be, like wider, more spread out. And if the beads kind of move around, that's okay. Just kind of know how big you want this to be stretched out. But I am gonna try to get them back in their holes. I feel like that's helpful for me personally. And just get everything nice and set up. I'm gonna kind of have my finger pushing over these, so you might not see those beads for a moment. Okay. So my fingers are kind of pressing them down here, and I'm gonna anchor this one. And I'm actually gonna anchor it it's the same way I wrapped the one before, but since I flipped it, it's gonna be kind of on the opposite. Like, see how, okay, let me show you this one. That one's going that way. This one's gonna be going the other way. And I'll show you after I wrap it. Sorry, my hand has to stay pressing these down right now. So I'm just making a tight triple coil here. Once again, pushing that wire through the side of my ring. Squeezing it up here. I'm sorry. Try to be still when I do this, but this is really, I mean, this is intricate wrapping in my opinion. For me it is. And once again, if you find it easier, you can grab your plier, just like poke it through and use it that way. Okay, so I'm gonna let go now. This is kind of what I was talking about. On the first wrap, I went coming from this direction, and this one is going the other direction. I'm gonna squeeze those together just a little bit. Okay. Okay, so we've kind of got it anchored at the top and the bottom, and we're ready to reinforce those babies going through the center. And all right, we are going to see how I just coiled that and it pulled the coil away from the center line. Can you see that? We need to do a wrap between that coil and the black bead to get this wire stationed up to be in the center, if that makes sense. So step one is gonna be to wrap right here in between that coil and the black bead. Okay. And now we're ready to kind of, it's basically like we're spiraling down the middle on both sides of each bead, if that makes sense. So now we're gonna go through and wrap on the bottom of the black bead. It's like a center spiral. Okay, and I forgot, when you come up underneath, when you wrap around the second time, you need to come up into the second band. So let me just take that last wrap out. I was going under the black bead and show you again. Okay, so now we're going to wrap around the bottom, but as we do that, we're gonna actually pass through that second band, almost like pick it up. Let me use my tool to get it up here. See how it's coming up the second layer, and now we're gonna wrap under the purple bead. Pull it through. There you go. Okay, now we're gonna wrap under purple bead. And once again, come back up through that next channel. Okay, now we're ready to do the green bead. Under, through, and then underneath the green bead. Okay, so glad I have my little tool. It's very helpful today. Coming up through that next channel into that orangey tourmaline. Wrap underneath that bead. Let's see, come here. It's getting a little bit, you can see it's getting really kind of tied up here, but I think it's gonna be okay. All right, I'm gonna use my tool to bring that up through so we can wrap underneath the tourmaline orange. Woo! I think I kept it too spread out on this one personally, but we're gonna make this work. All right, now I'm coming back up through this second to last channel. And I think I'm gonna turn around and grab my bent chain nose plier because I know it's so amazing at getting around these corners. Where is it? Oh, let's see, here. Here we go. I might stand up too because it's just easier for me to just stand. Okay, where was I? So I'm coming back up through the second to last channel. Whew. All right, so this is where I am. And I can tell I left way too much space on that purple one, but so far I have to still wrap those two pink beads, and I've kind of spiraled all down the center. And now I'm just gonna wrap the bottom of the pink bead. Okay. All right, I'm at my last bead here. I'm gonna squeeze into that little space. Wrap under the ruby, and this is where it's gonna go a little sideways for me, which is okay. It's because of the tension and just the spacing. I never really know if it's gonna go sideways or not. All right, last but not least, go underneath. Make sure, if all else fails, just coil, do your coiling, but the thing you really have to remember to do is wrap underneath that last bead. So I need to do my wrap right here. It's gonna go under and back through one last time, that's top channel. See how I think that really makes it. It gives like a little top line for that. It's difficult to see, but okay, so now the last thing we need to do is anchor this right here. We're just gonna do a little triple wrap like we've done a bunch of times already. Well, we've done it twice. This thin wire. Stick it through, pull it around. Okay, and then trim it off on the inside of your band with your flush cutter. And make sure you tuck in that tail with your chain nose plier. Okay, so once again, you're gonna wanna make sure that there are no sharp spots. You may wanna put it back on your mandrel. Shape it out a little bit. It may have gotten a little warped, like mine did. But they're all very unique. They're all gonna look a little bit different. Just like I said, sometimes they go sideways, sometimes they go straight, but I just love this, and I guarantee you the first one will be really hard, and then the second one you do, if you sit there, if you do one and then you make another one right afterwards, you will have learned a lot from that first one. Even me, like, it takes me a minute to re-remember all those little tips and tricks and get my hands warmed up to do this intricate wire wrapping. So don't get frustrated and go take a break if you need to. Hey guys, so I hope you took a break if you needed to. We're back to make another ring. I want to do a turquoise version and hang out with you guys for a little bit longer. So thanks so much. We're so excited about our virtual JTV Experience workshop this year. I'm teaching 3 classes. This is the advanced one, and I made up this design especially for the workshop, and it has its own creative mind, I think. I think this ring kind of talks to me when I make it, so don't let it get frustrating if you feel like it's too intricate of a wire wrap. You can even just add one tiny bead, or you could wrap one large bead across it, or no beads. So sometimes I get the little beads can be overwhelming for me even as a jewelry designer, so just make it your own and have fun with it. But I want to do another one for you with turquoise beads. And these are so cute. I've had these in my stash waiting for the perfect little moment. And so I'm gonna make one more with these beads. And also, just real quick, if you notice my bracelets, this is my beginner class. I went real basic, real beginner with a multi-strand stretch bracelet, which if you're new to making jewelry is maybe a bit confusing, just the process of it, and you know, it's really easy. So I'm gonna show you guys that in my beginner class. So even if you're an expert, you should tune into that one too. And we'll be saying hi to you and moderating. So let us know if you have questions or anything like that too. Okay. Let's get going. So I've got my 20 gauge German style wire, and I'm just gonna work off the spool, use my nylon jaw plier. I'm not gonna work harden it as much this time. Good. I love this plier so much. This is by Weber's. This is my favorite one. I think I use the most, and it's just really easy to handle. Okay, so grab your flush cutter, cut that, and your ring mandrel. Once again, I'm gonna work over the size 10 and do some spirals here. Okay, and then I'm gonna pull those all together, kind of cinch those up. I need to be a little tighter. Okay. My 2 tails, I'm gonna pull that off the mandrel. And do my little coiling. So I've got my band. I mean, I'm being a little more loose with this band, but just wrap tightly 3 times around. 1, push it in, pull it around. 2, push it in, pull it around. 3. I'll squeeze those together just a little bit. pull that around, cut it with my flush cutter, and tuck it down. All right, now I'm gonna flip it around. And just so you can see, that's kind of what it looks like right now. And with my hands, I'm kind of just working with it, basically squeezing that band. One of these bands felt like it was super small, so I just kind of pulled those together to make them closer to the same size. But now I'm gonna wrap this one here, just another little triple coil, which sounds like figure skater jump or something. And by the time you see these tutorials, the Olympics will have started. Okay, I'm gonna trim that off once again and tuck that in. Okay. Let me do just a little bit more. Okay. All right, so now I'm gonna put it back on my mandrel, shape it out a little bit. Grab my rawhide mallet. You can also use a nylon mallet or hammer. And I'm just hammering, not the coils, but not these coils here, just starting here, just kind of. And it kind of starts the splaying process. You can open those up with your hands, with a tool, however you want to do that. And now we're ready to add our little beads. So, 26 gauge wire. Be very careful with it because those little, even if there's the tiniest little bend on the end, it can get you. So just be careful. I'm not gonna hammer the whole front half of this one. I'm just gonna start wrapping. Let me go ahead and pick my little beads though. I'm gonna use just the pure turquoise ones. The light, consistent color. And I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and anchor this first up here at the top. And once again, remember I want the beads to kind of sit on top of the band. So I'm gonna anchor it coming from this direction. One. Two, 3. Trim that off on the inside, tuck it down with your chain nose plier, and then you've got this whole rest of the piece. So you may need to kind of cinch up that coil just a little bit. Mine got spaced out quite a bit. You can use your plier or your hands, however you want to do that. Okay. So now we're ready to add our little beads. You may need to give that a squeeze so it doesn't slide around. All right, so now I'm gonna add my 5 turquoise beads here. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, and let this slide down. And now we can wrap. So this one's a little bit different. It only has 5 beads. It's just because that's how many times I wrapped around the mandrel. You can always customize the length of that. All right. So here we go. This is the fun part, right? We're gonna be anchoring the other end of our wire here with another little triple wrap, and I like to keep my thumb kind of pressing down the beads while I do this because I don't know, it just kind of helps me keep the spacing between the bands. Okay. All right, so I'm just using that coil, kind of pushing it through the side of my ring. All right, and then come out when you're ready. I would just do 3 wraps. I know it's kind of hard to see. It's very intricate. Okay, there's that. And then we need to wrap on top of that turquoise bead to bring it back over to the middle of our piece. So just pull it over this way, like this. There we go. Yeah, thanks. And then push it up through this first channel. Okay. And now we're gonna wrap under the turquoise bead. And then come up through that second channel, basically spiraling down the center line. Okay, now we're gonna wrap over the top of the second turquoise bead. Come up through that second channel again. Really, a tool is helpful to just poke the wire out. And now we're gonna wrap under that second turquoise bead. And as we do that, coming up the other side through that third channel. Now we need to go around the third one. Come back up through that third channel again. You're just wrapping both sides of all the tiny beads. Then the top. Come up through that fourth channel. We're ready to get our fourth little bead. And hopefully you guys were able to get a copy of the tutorial for this. I find that it's really helpful. I went step by step, and I feel like the pictures really kind of help you just visualize the steps in this ring. So hopefully you got a copy of that. And if not, maybe we can link it to the video or something, but I'm sure that you have a copy of it if you're here today. Okay, now I'm gonna wrap the bottom of this one. Come up through the 5th rung. Wrap underneath that. Come up here and underneath that last bead, which I think is the thing that makes it look okay. Even if your wraps aren't perfect throughout the whole ring, which mine are not always, I feel like the thing that makes it look complete is this final one wrap for some reason. For some reason, it's just like a magical final wrap, and it's like, oh, I ended on a good note right there. So don't miss that last little wrap, please. Okay, I'm gonna have to come back up through this other side here and then anchor this bead here. This wire here. Whew, this is a lot of wrapping through these tiny rungs, but it is worth it in my opinion in the end. I'm glad I marked this as advanced because it's so intricate. Another little tip is maybe you could try it with copper wire or a softer wire for the first time. That might help. Or even if it's not your first time doing this, it's your 5th time. Or your 2nd time today. All right, so once you do that, trim off on the inside. Once again, squeeze it together. Make those look pretty. Tuck it in so you don't get cut. And there you go. That's it. So that is you can put it back onto your mandrel if you want to do some reshaping or anything like that. And all that little intricate wrapping really just keeps those beads in the middle of your ring. So doesn't have to be perfect. It's just basically to secure those to the bands of the ring. All right, guys, so don't forget to tell your own story with your little beads. Maybe you want to do a family tree ring. Maybe you want to do birthstones. Maybe you want to do gemstones across the world, or maybe you just want to use your favorite colors. You can really make it your own, and I hope you enjoyed this little ring. I really love the turquoise combo right now, but it's hard to pick a favorite. They're just so fun and whimsical, I think. So enjoy this. Let me know how it goes. Send me pictures, tag me on, if you can, or if you think about it, tag me on Instagram or Facebook at Create Like Katy, or I will just check in back here in the chat room if this is on YouTube and see what you guys thought. And don't forget to check out my other 2 classes. One is a really fun statement necklace, and one is just a beginner multi-strand stretch bracelet, which I make a lot of too. So thank you so much for being here and hanging in there with me. I know wire wrapping can be intense, but it's so worth it when the finished product is such a beautiful ring. All right, see you next time. Bye, guys.